and for his blessings. He has now come in our midst. He's with us. We don't see him as a spook. Right. That's right. He's no spook. He's a live man. He's a living God. I am sorry that I have not asked you to sit down. You look so beautiful, and I don't want you to sit down.
And a guest, and maybe he could help me to convey a message to you. He's my friend. I like him a lot, and I'm going to tell you why I brought him in and why I think he's important to the future of you learning about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And his name is Yosef bin Asiel Israel. Salam alaikum.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, who appeared in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, to whom righteous and holy praise is forever due, we thank that great God for his coming to the wilderness of North America to raise up amongst us the first begotten from the dead, that special soul. I speak none other than the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. In those holy and righteous names, I greet you in the words of peace. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back again to another installment of Know Thyself Radio Show, where we make it our business, our duty, our responsibility to give you nothing but the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And as always, I'm so humbled to be before you, to have the ability to disseminate truth is so taught by the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And again, you know, as those who seek righteousness, those who try to make it their best to be a representative of something greater than the world which they see and have to participate in every day, a world that we have been reduced to: the ignorant, the deaf, the dumb, the blind, the beast of the field. And knowing that, being aware of that, and being exposed and having the ability to be a participant in the will of Almighty God Allah, and to be a student and a follower of his last and his greatest messenger, is something not only we do not take for granted, but it's something that we cherish. And so it is incumbent upon us. It's a great responsibility for us to not just to have that in our own hearts, especially to make sure that we put it in our family, our wives, our children, you know, those who are close. But when we have the ability to build with brother and sister in this faith, in this understanding, in this knowledge, in this truth, and to form bonds that supersedes physical or blood relationship, and we can see the pureness of God within the actions that are produced by our brothers and our sisters, it is such a glorious thing. And so I wanted to preface with that because I am a beautiful recipient of that reality. You know, I want to use the appropriate words, but I'm just going to speak truth to power. You know, as I've been blessed before, and we done a previous episode, which unfortunately, due to my negligence, I did not have the audio in the pristine way that I wanted to present my brother's magnificent conversation that we had. But he's been so gracious to give me another opportunity, and I'm grateful for that. So I'm not going to belabor the point. I want to bring in my brother, my friend, my partner in this work, introduce you to him again. The second time, the first only repeat guest I've had on my short show on the podcast, my brother again, Jamil Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum salam, beloved. How are you, sir?
Again, man, it's an honor, it's a pleasure, it's a privilege. Brother, I'm going to give with you. I want to ask you a question, but just seeing you and watching you these last few years, this last year in particular, your growth, your development, it takes me to the messenger and his writings. And this is in Message to the Black Man, the meaning of Islam. The entire submission to the will of Allah God, the religion of Allah, and his prophets is the natural religion of the righteous. Holy Quran, Surah 30, chapter 30 verse, which will dominate all of the other religions. That's also found in the Holy Quran, 61, 8 through 9. Surely the true religion of Allah, God, is Islam. Holy Quran 3 and 18. Can we say this of other religions? Now I wanted to stop there because my brother was born in this knowledge. He was born in this truth. He's been privileged enough not to have any distractions, deviations, any breaks from serving Almighty God Allah and his messenger. And look at the product that it has produced. I was blessed to have a mother who was a follower, a student of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. She was up under the tenure of the Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan in the rebuilding of the nation in the 80s. But for me, I had a break from the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And if it was not for the beautiful institution that his father, that his uncle, that his spiritual uncle had formed and found, CROW, which is the remembrance, the coalition for the remembrance of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I would have not had that reconnection to my true leader and teacher. So, brother, I just want for a second to take a moment to tell us how important that is and what that has done for you to have that type of rooted truth and knowledge and not to be distracted by the world.
Well, brother, let me begin by stating that I appreciate the opportunity to be a guest on your show. I must commend you on your growth, your development in this work based on your study and commitment. And may Allah continue to bless you as you continue to grow and make greater impacts on our people. I must say that I've always, and you've heard me say that, feel tremendously blessed by for practically all my life being raised in Islam. My parents accepted Islam before I was 2 years old. So basically I was raised in this. And it saved me a lot of time. And when I say a lot of time, there was not, the traditional fairy tales of falsehoods about how we got here, about a spook god, pagan holidays, none of those things. I always understood how we got here. I understood the truth of Almighty God Allah. I understood the truth and the knowledge of self. And I had an understanding of who the devil was and is. And having that clarity, I think, instilled a confidence or an expectation in myself to excel in whatever I try. Now, of course, as the book says, we all would try, and you grow up, you do different things. You see trials even with family. But I was a close and observant student of my father. And he was a communicator. He always shared information. It was always teachable moments. And so my growth as a result of constant teaching, I, of course, had a base and a foundation. But in addition to that base and foundation, I received consistent nurturing and teaching from my father. And not only in words, but in example. And so I would say the greatest thing that the teachings did for me, next to knowing the truth, was the confidence in knowing that everyone else was either equal to or less. And meaning, under God and his messenger. And so um, my success would be a direct result of my effort and work, you know. And so I always look to that self-accusing spirit for that ultimate accountability. And so, of course, the things that go without saying, as a Muslim follower of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and raised in Islam, I was always very respectful, was very mannerable. To, you know, it's more foreign for me not to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, and yes, sir, and no, sir, than it is to say it. You know, of course, being a disciplined, well-mannered child, you know, I grew up, you know, people thinking I may have been a square or not involved in certain things, you know, but I was raised just differently, and I had different interests, and so I'm thankful to Almighty God, Allah, for my journey because it afforded me the opportunity to be raised in truth and not have any doubt about the truth of things. And it's made me love and respect my brother and sister, to share this information with them, to be a genuine brother and sister towards them, and just understand the magnitude of the responsibility of being a follower of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I mean, it's the greatest gift that I could have. And I truly understand and know when the messenger says that this is a life-giving teaching, that this is the difference between life and death. And his teaching is the very base of that spiritual resurrection that is talked about in the books of Scripture.
Again, you see why my brother is so profound, so articulate. He represents his truth so well. And one thing, brother, that I have noticed with you in particular, and this is what I have to say, that, you know, you're following right in your father's footsteps, your uncle's footsteps, you know, in the organization in totality's footsteps, is that you've always had a vision for yourself. And I know this from conversations that I had personally with you, things that you shared, wisdom that you have imparted in me, that you can tell that you've always been a man that has been motivated with a greater calling. So we know Scripture tells us and teaches us that a people without a vision will perish. That's just how it goes. And the thing that we know that has been proven 30 plus years to prove and validate what I'm about to say is that Crow was built on a vision. It was built on a vision that was greater even than the individuals who came up with the idea and the concept. And because of that, it allowed longevity, sustainability, and also to produce great men, women, and instrumental developments, not just in Chicago, but everywhere the Crow or the organization went on behalf of the teachings of the messenger and the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, which were given to him from God Almighty. So can you tell me that how does your personal vision and then the vision of Crow intertwine, interwoven? How were you able to keep those aligned and them not be at odds with one another? Because, you know, especially certain children, they have their own vision, they have their own, you know, perspective on what they want to do. And sometimes when you come from the loins of great men and women, but in particular great men, history proves this fact that the children always kind of want to make their own way, so to speak, and try to do things in opposition of what their father had established. And we know that even with the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's child, Ward of Deen, you know, how he took the nation into a whole nother direction and pretty much disgraced everything that his father has built. So can you talk about the importance of kind of staying in line and how you were able to do that so naturally?
Yes, sir, brother. That's a wonderful, wonderful question. And my answer may be lengthy, but I want to make sure that I cover it thoroughly, because this is something that, and you probably could attest to this in some circles and may have experienced it. I've been criticized for in different aspects of my life by family and friends because they didn't have the same vision or understanding that I did. First and foremost, my father, you know, As I say, he was always teaching and always talking. I saw, his vision that he talked about. I saw the difference in him when he embarked upon this work and what he did for him. And he talked about it constantly, even growing up. And so for me, for me, I always wanted to make my parents proud of me. And the things that, the good grades weren't a problem, the mannerisms I get in trouble weren't a problem, anything like that. But I was so appreciative and confident. I wanted to emulate the best of my father because he taught me, when he was growing up, he wanted to take the best from everybody so he could be great. As you may recall, at his when I was giving a conversation and talking about him, when he passed, was talking about the beautiful surah, the bee, and the beauty of the bee.
Yes, sir.
Is it searches the best flowers, looking for the best nectar to take from each flower, to take the best of it back to better the hive. And so when I grew up, having a conversation was like, man, I wanted the respect that my father had. I idolized the independence and the confidence that he had. But I knew that it had to be based on something. And so my thing, because, what I saw when the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad departed was that many people sat quiet while the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's name was maligned. And so the first thing that my father taught me was the defense of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And, and so in having that foundation, having that guard, when I began to talk to people or debate, I get my confidence up. And with every accomplishment that I ever had, my father was my first call. Like I was able to do this or this happened, and it was to celebrate not a meaningless achievement, but it was to show that a Muslim follower of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad could excel in that world. Because remember, many of our own people, many relatives felt like you had to hide with the name Muhammad. You had to subdue your beliefs because they were too strong or too radical, and you had to lay low under the radar. And so as I was able to achieve recognition at every level without compromising who I was, brother, that was beautiful because that even gave me more confidence. And so my father was proud of that. Now, my father worked in this work. This is another thing. He always thought of family. As you know, I've had 2 careers professionally, successful at both of them. One of them was with the airlines. The other currently, I deal with utility. Well, the first way I went to the airline, it was from a conversation at home. I remember my father said, someone needs to work for the airline so we could fly free, so we could get around to travel to, talk about this work.
Teach.
And so it was me. I still had to apply. I still had to interview and be selected. I still had to perform the work and position myself to excel in leadership there. So I did that, but the idea or the strategy was for a purpose, for the greater good. And I was able to execute that. Okay. So, and that journey took me places, and he was proud to see that recognition. And so as I learned how to navigate in the business world, it took me that I had to leave Chicago and living in Houston and then in Dallas and, before coming back to Chicago. And coming back to Chicago, where we used to talk in Texas like, hey, I want you to work closer with me. And so in coming back, and still having a family to feed, I always maintained a certain level of independence, But one of the things I wanted to do was have a place, be in a place or position that there was always a demand, and then strategically put myself in a position to deal with the elected officials, with the community leaders and business community to help not only to help improve the community, especially in the advocacy of our people, for our people. And so to align, brother, as my father dealt with the same elected officials, the same community leaders, same business community, walking in on one side, and then I was able to, even in a professional sense, be doing the same thing in my role of what I was doing, but having the knowledge and teaching of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It was a very, very proud way. It was a proud moment. It was a thing that if he couldn't speak to someone, then I was in a position maybe I could, because we were dealing with a lot of cases with the same people. And of course, his work was always 100% based on the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and bringing information to our people in the way of truth. I, on the other hand, I did have a responsibility in terms of a job that I was executing with different responsibilities. However, my very presence and my conversations in establishing those relationships was able to still appeal to the consciousness and still teach people and guide them towards taking action and steps to benefit our people. And so again, I strive to get that position because I saw it as a way to help my father and further what we were doing on behalf of our people. So Allah blessed me to do that. And so, as you know, my father and I had many conversations about, brother, if you let that go and just do this, or if you do this, this is what I'm trying to do. He always talked strategy. And so, as a result, I love strategy. My father would talk to me, and sometimes he could be very volatile, and then in hindsight, we'd have conversations about different ways to handle things. And so the beauty of my father is that he never wanted me or tried to make me into him, but to take the best of him and couple it with what my talents were naturally to make the best product. And so he knew that I was always strong. Brother, look, the closer you are to my father, the more feedback you're going to have. All praises due to Allah. You're just going to get it. And I know you can bear witness to that. Yes, and sir. So, and I was never concerned about that. And I'm sure in your conversations, we'll tell you, I was never a disrespectful, disobedient son. Whatever feedback, hey, I took it, applied what I could, and moved forward. But what it was it helped me to remain focused on a goal and a vision of a purpose to further this, to never want to be in the number, to even be perceived as one who was too scared or weak to stand up for the messenger and the teachings that he gave. And so it made me able to dismiss Negroes who I know did not have a basis for their opinions. It helped me not waste time with meaningless conversations about people's opinions who couldn't influence change anyway. And so I'm not easily distracted. I'm focused. And so with that, it helped because I always saw myself. My father said, "It's that secret weapon." And I'll give you this. Brother, that in many great men, when their enemies come, they go and try to attack not them, but attack those or something that they love in order to get them off their square or to find that vulnerability.
Yes, sir.
However, my goal was to never be that vulnerability. that you couldn't find a chink in the armor with me to help me get me off my square to get to my Father. That is why, for as long as you've been at Crow, brother, you've never heard my name or seen me be disrespectful in any mess. Not only me, but anyone in my family or who's affiliated with me, because they know that is a no-no.
Yes, sir.
That cannot happen. And that has been serious, almost to the point where the people can say, well, he may not be as engaging as others. And that's not it. You know how engaging my father was, and the accountability he held to people. But for me, since I was trained professionally and with him, I was always the observant person. I could love and respect you, but I didn't have to be close up to you because I'm watching my father's back. I'm looking at that's the important thing to me is the organization that supersedes the individual relationships. Mm-hmm. Hence, when brothers may leave or take a different path, it doesn't mean that they're my enemy, but I cease communications with them because our goals aren't aligned. Of course, it's incumbent upon me and I give the greeting, but other than that, if you were on the team and now you're off the team, that really reduces or eliminates anything that we could really be talking about, if that makes sense. And so it's like my father used to tell me, he was the hardliner. But if you look at myself and probably Mandine, he would even tell you, he's like, my father was a lot more probably compassionate and forgiving than we were.
Yes,
because it was so personal, because this is my father. This is a man who, based on his love and effort, I saw him hurt or disappointed by people not doing what they said they would do. So, of course, growing up as a son, it makes me skeptical. It makes me understand the pain of his sacrifice, and the loving side of me say, Dad, if you could pull back a little just for your own mental health or well-being, it might be, you might be happier. However, understanding the mission of the teachings, furthering the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and looking at what the messenger did, there are no days off. You can't stop this. That was his ultimate joy. With whatever price he paid, it was still smaller than the messenger. And so, based on that, brother, you just had to see it and go on. And so, that vision was like, it's Crow is promoting the messenger over everything else. Everything else has to come second, because without the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, we wouldn't have anything that we've been blessed with today. And so my vision, why it aligns with Crow, is because that's really the basis of our life, brother. Crow started in our basement. Crow was something that my father spoke into existence, and then with the help of others brought into fruition. But it was at the forefront of his life. And as close as I am to it, it was burned into my heart, and it has to be the forefront of mine. And of course, I have siblings, I have a wife, I have children. There are people that I love dearly that sound like I may sound. They care for me. Well, maybe if you don't do so much, if you don't try so hard, don't be stressed or this and that. But we can't stop this work, brother. If we do, then who if we stop, then who's going to continue it? And so it's been, as my father said, it's a labor of love. But my conscience won't allow me to quit. My conscience won't allow me to give up. And even the obstacles that I have, many of which I haven't even addressed yet. And, I have family members that, they deserve some retribution, brother. But that's not a priority for me now, because I can't be distracted off of what we need to do at Crow. And so, based on that, in my father's absence, I have to recall his words. I have to recall our conversation, and his legacy is, I have that. I'm trying to further that. I want people to recognize him and remember him. And if I'm that living example of remembering him in the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, then that's a tremendous, tremendous honor, brother. And that's all I ever wanted to do. If you recall, when I started off, I said, for when I was younger, what I wanted to do was make my parents proud of me. First and foremost, I cared about their opinions more than anybody else. And to this day, it's the same way. It's the same way. And I know that they'll be proud of me as long as I'm representing and following the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And it's been a blessing for me. It's been beneficial. And it's what I've grown to love to do. I love this work. It is, it requires some patience, brother. It does, as you know, yes, that, as we navigate through these things as we're trying. But I love what we're doing at Crow, and I know the impact that it has on lives. And so that vision has been aligned because that vision was born out of my father's desires and thoughts. And I'm his son, and I've always seen myself as his helper or confidant in that, without sacrificing who I am, but bringing who I am to the table to help him further this work.
Again, we're listening to our brother, our friend, Jamil Muhammad. And I started off saying that it's a difference when your life has been rooted in the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. It's a difference when you haven't been tainted by the negative influences of the world and you've been trained in truth from birth. You've been developed from birth. Scripture says we were birthed in sin and shaped and formed in iniquity. Well, brother's been blessed to be protected from that reality. Not that he wasn't affected by other outside entities of this world, or he didn't have to engage in sin in the world, but he was birthed in truth. He was birthed in the knowledge of the God, the devil, and himself. He knows his identity. He knows how this all began and how it all end. And now you can see, and this is a viable example, if you do not get distracted or detour, or you do not deviate from this truth, this is what you're able to produce. And as you can hear, our brother, so strong, so powerful. But again, look how selfless he is. He didn't say at one point with his discussion or his answer or his response that it's about self. He never self-aggrandized. He never tried to boost himself up and put him over others, though he has a knowledge that is supreme, though he's accomplished, though he has achieved great things and continue to do so in such a magnificent and effortless way. But the brother said, hey, I'm about making the God happy. I'm about proving the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and their validity and their worth, and making sure that he's not written out of history. I wanted to make my father proud. I wanted to make my mother proud. And see, listen to this man. Now think about how great his children are going to be, because now they have 2 generations of that type of selflessness and commitment to truth. Brother, again, I'm so humbled to have you on, and you thought well enough for me again to come back on and afford me so many opportunities to be on with you on the Munir Muhammad Show and Muhammad and Friends. And I want to talk about that for a minute, because we know the climate right now. One of the things that the devil does very well is he uses his media to promote his propaganda, to misinform and to give disinformation to our people in particular, because they know how gullible we are. And if we see it on the phones and we see it on the TV screens, in most instances, especially if it's being talked about from white mouths, we're going to take it as truth, hook, line, and sinker. And you've been able to continue, again, like you said, in the work of your father and the work of the messenger, of putting these teachings out and giving our people an unadulterated truth. So can you tell us how important it is to have such an independent source of media, not just for disseminating information, but also giving people opportunity to put themselves out in the public to show their people what they have to offer, so we don't be in that same old narrative of, well, we don't have any black businesses that we can support, or we don't have any, those same old talking points. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. And it's about exposure. Again, I go back to, the earlier years of Crow and how we felt excluded. When we had a message to give out or trying to do so, we had to go through so many changes to try to do that. And so having the television program and the benchmark that my father set for the show and has established, we wanted to continue that because we know that many people in our community, based on what they have to do as far as working and don't have time to investigate things, and they hear these sound bites, and in many cases on the news, I don't care if it's an elected official, businessman, whatever, if it's a black person, there's going to be some kind of slander, some kind of negativity involved. And so what we try to do is highlight truth. That's why even with our elected officials, we give them a forum to speak directly to the people and their constituents. We give the constituents the forum to call in and ask questions directly of their elected officials and community leaders so that they can gain clarity on what they heard. So they could find out about information and resources that are available to them, because we know that usually by the time it makes it to our community, all the resources have been exhausted. And so these are the things that we do. If you look at mainstream media, they'll tell you that there are no black businesses. So what do? We bring on black businesses. Even today, we take the show with the sister, Devonna Hawkins. She's the owner of Kingdom Construction of Chicago, a black sister who has a contractor. And so we bring in people from the community so that we could circulate our black dollar, and more importantly, provide inspiration to our people who are viewing that, so they know that all these doors aren't closed, that if you work, there's the opportunity that we can connect with one another to create opportunities for each other. And so that is what we try to do with that aspect. But remember, we have the Munir Muhammad Show and we have Muhammad and Friends. Equally, and if not more importantly, when we have our guests on Muhammad and Friends, everything that we do anyway bears witness to the truth of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But that is the show that primarily we try to have witness bearers of people, historical people who understand the struggles and the things that we went through in the Nation of Islam as followers of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, to bear witness to the truth of his works, because we know that in your educational systems, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get it from the mainstream media and television. You're not going to get it from these authors that writing about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, many of whom have never had contact with them. And so we use that show for brothers such as yourself, brothers like your father, brothers like our co-founders and other members, and my beautiful brother, Minister Wasim Muhammad out of Camden, New Jersey. This Sunday, we had our brother Nuri Muhammad on out of Indianapolis. We've had everyone on to testify to the truth of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teachings and what it has done for them, so that in one sense, we're talking the business community. We have the elected officials. We're talking about the things that take place every day in our people's lives. But we also give them the foundation and the spiritual food and example that we know is the difference between life and death. And we believe that if they only had the opportunity to get to know the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, then they too can learn to love, appreciate, respect, and follow him as we do.
All praise is due to Allah, brother. Again, we're listening to our brother Jamil Muhammad. Brother, two things. I guess I'll ask him in two parts. I'm gonna ask you this first. Of course, you've been doing interviews for a number of years now, but this has been your first full year, a little bit over full year now, of you doing it full time. What has been, and you've interviewed a variety of guests, like you just named in the short span in the past week, just different facets. You had Gator Bradley on, you had Brother Nuri, you had Student Minister Ishmael, you've had, Brother Minister Wasim, then you've had elected officials, you have businessmen, you've had millionaires. You've had doctors. We can go on and on and on.
Yes, sir.
What have you learned in particular about the plight of our people and what we've been missing through the guests that you've had? Because you've been able to, like you said, galvanize and talk to and articulate different facets of the problem our people, and have people give, for the most part, pretty sound solutions, not complete, because only the messengers give us a complete comprehensive plan, but they the best with what they know. What are we missing, with all of that information and all that knowledge, that we can't just pull that trigger, brother?
Brother, it requires action. And that's the best way I could say it. I know that we have people, I see the viewership, I know that it's out there. Sometimes we hear the feedback of people enjoying shows, but what has happened, brother? And, we give people information, but they can receive it from the comfort, whether it's their homes, their phones, or anything. But we don't change our condition unless we begin to act on what we hear and what we learn. And so, and doing the shows, I've learned certain things are just some of the shows, brother, that I think the most information is shared, we probably get the lowest commentaries or fewer callers or even views. Some of the shows that align with some of the things that they're talking about in mainstream media that I may not think has the greatest depth. Sometimes people love those, and it really depends on where they are. And what I've learned a lot of is having to rely on feedback that, in conversations that I had with my father. As you know, some of his greatest frustrations, he would be on the air like, y'all not calling the air,
Yes,
and for me, I'll say, well, maybe, they're engaged and looking at it, but it's not. But I realized that, and give you an example, we had Brother Mike Taki and Brother Shaheed Muslim as the guests on, we did a show. Actually, we taped that. That's not viewed yet. I'm sorry. We taped that show yesterday. However, the word has many connections. And so I don't know what show it may be. I don't know what message or what guest might be the one to trigger someone to call, may trigger someone to look at something. And remember, every show that we do, we end with a picture of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. There's something on every show that points you to him. And so I've looked at that as an opportunity last year to try to grow as a host, as an interviewer. I realize, and I take feedback all the time too, because there might be things that I know, but my audience may not know. And so you fine tune those things and try to extract the most from your guests to give it to our people, because I know that I don't take for granted that as an elected official, as a brother, sister, whoever, to come on the show, that when you're speaking to an audience that's international in reach, there may be nerves, there may be some doubt, confidence. So I'm trying to make people as comfortable as they can be, because I want our people to learn how to love and appreciate and respect people. I want my audience to say, okay, this is a Muslim right here. His father was Munir Muhammad. This is Jamil Muhammad. They're Muslims. They follow the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. They could sit down and have an intelligent, respectful conversation with anyone on the planet. So that Islam can't be that bad. It can't be as scary as they say it is. I know that no matter what I'm doing, brother, I know that people know that I'm a Muslim follower of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. So when I'm interviewing, when I'm bringing them information, the only thing I'm trying to show them is, hey, I'm your brother. You don't have to fear this. What they told you about the Muslims is not true. Look at this for yourself. And if they see us with no fear, bringing information that they can use, and then they tell someone else, whatever they see on the show, they have to mention the name Muhammad in some context. And so if they send them back to it, it's some way that they're at least going to be exposed to the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And so this last year, I've learned basically that the people won't come in droves. You can't predict, who's going to call or this or that. But you can't get too high. You can't get too low, brother. It's a long race,
Yes,
it's a long journey. And so my father did that show, brother, for over 20-something years. And I will tell you, after doing it for a little over a year, it makes me have even more respect and appreciation for his dedication. It's a tremendous, tremendous responsibility. And for him to do that from the ground up and continue to do it, I've always loved it, but man, brother, our people have to respect what he did while he was present, his contribution, because it was nothing short of magnificent.
Yeah, I agree as well, brother. Being privileged in the limited capacity that I was to be up close with your father, to view him, he made it a priority that I was there as much as I could possibly be. And, I try to continue that as much as possible now. And I'm there every Sunday just to bear witness to a Muslim, a student and a follower of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, who already has these misconceptions placed upon them, these preconceived notions that people walk into our doors with under the false pretenses that, like you said, the Muslims are the boogeymen, so to speak. And then to sit down and say, oh, wow, not only are they respectful and loving and humble and intelligent, but they just genuinely care about truth. They're not forcing no Islam on it. And that, for me, shows how the truth, like you said, has so many connections that even those who we know were in opposition to the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, through what your father was able to create with that beautiful platform, had to come in and bear witness to the greatness of what we were doing and the greatness of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Had to bear witness. And I said, damn, that's the power of Almighty God Allah. Said that your enemies become your footstools. You know what I mean? So again, brother, when you say that, like I said, I can't understand in totality, but I do have some semblance of understanding being close to your father. And like you said, even with my father, who's another man who's made great strides and great sacrifices, have done great things on behalf of his people, for us to be in this position to just be able to walk in their footsteps, and to continue this work is such a great, magnificent thing, brother. And I'm so humbled to be on this journey with you. And I don't want to keep you too long. We're getting about the hour mark. It is our show. We can go as long as we want. But, brother, we'll have you back on so we don't miss anything. But you spoke about, and I have to get two more questions, but you spoke about, yes, sir, all praises be to Allah. You spoke about our elected officials. And we know the messenger's teachings. He said in Fall of America with the great election, like, Democrats win, you're going to get the same thing. Republicans win, you get the same thing. It's been that same cycle over and over again. And he encouraged us, if we are going to participate, that we vote in our interest. And I want to ask you this, brother, because not only are you well-versed in the politics of the world, the geopolitics of the world, especially here in America, and in particular in Chicago, because you deal with them up close and personal. You know, you have a personal relationship with a lot of our elected officials, our aldermen, city councilmen, so forth and so on. Again, for our people, and you make it a priority to teach and show, not just when you have elected officials on, but when you're doing commentary, to open up our eyes on when are we going to start to look at what is important to the elevation and the growth of our people. When are we going to start voting our best self-interest? So with that being said again, and you see our people getting back into symbolism, and moving away from substance, how can we, with the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, redirect our people back on staying focused? Okay, that's all fluff. You know, that's not going to produce anything. We've got a 400 plus year track record of how they have been deceiving us with this so-called political game. How do we stay focused? How do you see that happen in this year going forward?
I think that this year, brother, it's really it's going to be tough. They have made the current president into the boogeyman and the source of all evil, as if we weren't being oppressed, murdered, killed, mistreated prior to Donald Trump's, tenure. And, when you look at the Democratic Party, it's on the national level, as I speak of, who has taken our vote and people for granted for the longest without delivering any tangible results that have affected our community, then the writing is on the wall. But, and just look at this, our people turn on each other and have more arguments about being Democratic or Republican when neither party is going to be the end result or result in the salvation of our people. So that's it. First and foremost, this whole Democratic versus Republican on a national level, all of that, that's just emotion and driven by media stuff. So I would hope that people, vote their interests, or at least whoever they vote for, at least ask them the questions to hold them accountable to try to get something in it for their people. Now, I'm going to focus more on the local level, because those are the elections, and I think that you'll have a greater chance of having someone to vote for that has your interest at hand or that you could affect it. But I want to talk about the whole process, brother. This is the important piece. We have a tendency to only promote and encourage people to show up in election years to vote. Well, the terms, whether it's 4 years or 2 years, you have to maintain, I'm talking about relationships. So if I elect an alderman, if I elect a senator or representative, and I give you my vote, what happens in our people is that we don't have any interactions. We don't go to any of the local meetings. We don't check up on any of the legislation that's being introduced or following things on the website. Many of us don't sign up for the newsletters or follow the newsletters to stay about what's going on, to give our opinion to the people that we gave our vote to locally, which we have more access to let them know what we want, what we think, and more importantly, say, hey, if you go forth with this, you'll have the backing of the people because we're engaged in this process. But if you give me a vote and I don't hear from you for 2 years to 4 years until it's election time again, then I'm going to be beholden to not necessarily your vote, but those who are helping me to be reelected. You're supposed to have a relationship with your elected officials. If you put them in office, you have to hold them accountable is one thing, but you also have to encourage and strengthen them to do the will of the people that they're hearing from. And so that's so important, brother, because we hear all this stuff about, you got to get out and vote. You got to get out and vote. But that message is short-sighted and narrow. If I'm going to vote for you, then I need to be attending your monthly meeting. I need to be receiving your monthly newsletter. I need to be on that Zoom meeting. I need to be listening for you when you have your meetings, or at least force you to have meetings to update, the residents on what you're doing. And so, whereas I'm not necessarily a proponent of just voting, I'm a proponent of the accountability, not only the accountability, but the strengthening of the Black elected officials who may have the heart and desire to try to bring about change, but don't necessarily feel the support of the people in the community to help them bring about that change. And so that is the way that I look at it. As I look at the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who gave a forum to Wesley South when he was running, and he said, hey, if someone's working on your behalf, whether you vote, then do it. But if you're going to give someone a vote, then hold them accountable. Give them encouragement. Help them do what you gave them your vote to do.
Teach.
You have to be engaged. And see, that is the thing. We only go so far. The symbolism is the vote. The work is the encouragement, the accountability, the interaction, forming a relationship with those who you vote for. And so that's the best way that I could, summarize how I feel about voting and what our people should look for now. I think on a national level, though, our people, I know what they're going to go for, but I still have not heard anything specific from the Democratic Party other than symbolism. For my whole life, we've heard, more jobs, better education, and things like that. But we've had Black elected officials throughout the country, as far as mayors and things at every level. But it hasn't resulted in a change for our people. And so that's why I'm saying, if we're going to give the vote, stay engaged through the entire process to be the strength for that elected official to stand up on behalf of you, who gave the vote. So, brother, but I'll tell you, I really am not. I wouldn't be surprised if President Trump is a two-term president.
Yes, sir.
I wouldn't be surprised. However, the way I see it is that, regardless of that, my focus, and I encourage anyone else in our community, is to look at the program of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, beginning with learning to love, self and kind, and pooling our resources, making our own neighborhoods a clean and safe place to live, and doing the program for self-development that he laid down, that we could do without any elected official. We can begin to bring those things into fruition in our own communities and start block by block.
All praises due to Allah. See how powerful and profound, but simple truth is so taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. There's nothing complex about just being responsible and accountable. But because we've been conditioned to be negligent, irresponsible, to be absent of our duties, that we have succumbed to the victimization of our open and outright enemy. Brother, again, I love you dearly, and I ain't going to hold you, but I do have one more question. I want to ask this.
Yes, sir, bro.
We're coming up on the messenger's birthday this October, on which we know these days are flying by, and I know the pandemic has put a halt to a lot of the things that we usually do, the film showings and things of that nature. I don't know if the Nation of Islam under Honorable Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan is doing that Day of Atonement, the anniversary of the Million Man March, or not. But it is something that Crow in particular, maybe a special show that you will be putting together in remembrance of the messenger's birthday, or to just give a little bit more information and knowledge about our leader and teacher, or anything that kind of you got in the works that we could probably get a little preview to.
Yes, sir, brother. I will share this. Now, there's two things that we're in the works for. Now, on the messenger's actual birth anniversary, October 7th, it's on a Wednesday. We're gonna have a sister. I'm not gonna say her name yet. This is our sister. She's out of New York, and she focuses primarily on not only mental health, but how to eat to live. And what we're gonna do on that show is, all this nutrition, all these things that are coming out where they're making money off of our people, they still don't give credit to the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So we thought it was fitting on that show, on that day, to kind of highlight the message's teaching on how to eat to live, and then bring our beautiful sister on, who is a follower of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who specializes in that field, to talk about her practices and the things that she's doing, how she helps our community in that work, and how her practice is rooted in the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We thought that would be a fine thing for that Wednesday show. Now, that weekend, because of the pandemic, we know that we cannot have, really film showings there. However, that Sunday we will be presenting an interview by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and that Saturday we will also have a special live broadcast that will be streaming as well of a particular video for the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And so that is our plan. We're going to book in both weekends, the weekend before his birth anniversary and the weekend after. And then on his birth anniversary, since it hails on that Wednesday, we're going to have a sister. We're going to be talking primarily about how to eat to live. It's taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but how sister is using that teachings to help our people here and now. So that's our plan for it, brother. So we're already in motion. We want the people to not only, brother, be able to say his name and, call him a great man. We want them to bear witness to the truth that he brought to our people well before they got the approval from Caucasian people to say that it's okay now. We want to make witness bearers, brother.
All praises be to Allah. Again, brother, it's been an honor and a pleasure to have you on, sir. And I'm so grateful. I just wanted to read something because, again, listening to you has inspired me. And I thought the best thing I can do is finish off with some words from the messenger. This is, again, from Message to the Black Man, the last chapter, Answer to the Critics. And I'm going to read the last little part. And this is how the messenger, Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, signs off. He said, Thanks to Allah, our God, in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, the great Mahdi, who has come to restore we who were lost from our own, the kingdom of Islam, and to destroy those who have destroyed us. Thou art our God, O Allah, and we are thy people. Deliver us from our murderers, and we will serve and obey thee all the days of our life, and we will teach our children thy praises and to submit to thee for thy unequal love and mercy for us. And thanks to you, O Allah, for making manifest our enemy, the devil, and help us, O Allah, to die the death of a Muslim. And brother, you truly live the life of a Muslim, sir, and you truly represent the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad as your father did, as your uncle continues to, and the members and the co-founders of Crow, Brother Shaheed Muslim as well, Halif Muhammad. And I'm just so grateful to be in that number, to be in this kingdom of Islam, and to be a student of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. So is any closing remarks before we go ahead and sign off, sir?
Brother, I just really like to encourage you to continue to do what you're doing. It is a tremendous work, and we all need that assistance and support. I know that God is blessing you to be stronger in this work, and brother, I'm just proud of you, and I continue to look for great things from you. You know, one of the things though that I will just take this moment to say is that I like for all of the people in your listening audience to go out and purchase Message to the Blackness. That book there, if you read it, you know, even if you've already read it, read it again. And if you need to find out more information on where you can get it and anything about the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, give us a call at Crow at 773-925-1600. I just want to leave the people with that. In this time of need right now, there's no greater time, a better time to familiarize yourself with the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And that's the last message I want to leave the people with, brother.
Thank you. Again, thank you for listening to myself, most importantly, my brother Jamil Muhammad. And nothing else needs to be said. We give all honor and praise to the creator of the heavens and the earth, Almighty God Allah, who appeared in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. And we thank him for his last, but surely his greatest messenger, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we leave you as we came, in the words of peace and paradise of Assalamu alaikum.